Hello again, traders, and welcome back to the Hot Stocks Outlook for August 9th, 2024. I hope you all have had an excellent week out there in the financial markets. As always, we're going to take a look at the most recent VantagePoint predictive forecast. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and click on the link in the description below, and you can sign up for a live demonstration to really learn all the specifics about how these predictive tools can help traders make better trading decisions day to day in the marketplace. So what we're going to do here is a little bit of an interesting couple of weeks that we've had here, right? An extreme increase in volatility. And so when we look here at something like the Qs, right, the broader tech stock space, we can see that we've been in a downtrend here, and that's pulled things down almost about 10% in the past 18 or 19 trading days. Now, typically we look at this via the S&P 500, and so we can go ahead and do that as well. And so what we see here is on our year-to-date mark, well, we're still up about 12%, but again, a huge amount of volatility coming in. And even over the past 5 trading days, we got that move lower on Friday and then a big gap down, right? So we're getting a gap down, sort of filling a lot of that gap, and it's just creating a huge amount of volatility, just movement overall in the marketplace. And so we want to be pretty careful, as far as identifying, especially new bullish trading opportunities, and they really are few and far between. So here you see with the Qs, the market continuing to go lower. But let's use Hershey really as an example of how all of these predictive indicators work together, because whether we have a bullish market or a bearish market, it can help us identify those broader themes and then on a day-to-day basis help manage those opportunities, which is really the key here. And so when we look at actually a lot of the grocery store stocks, here we have a couple of chicken companies. We got Hershey here, some of the spice companies and things actually doing quite well, along with defense and things like Lockheed Martin. But that doesn't give us a view of the broader market, and there are things that are still pretty mixed out there. So here with Hershey is a really good example of how all of this works together with daily price action, right? So each one of these candles that you see, that's going to represent a full and complete trading day. And right up against all the price data, what you're first going to notice is there's a black line and a blue line value there. Now, the black line value, that's actually a simple moving average. It's a very common technical analysis indicator. In this case, it's a 10-period simple moving average, and then it really just adds the 10 close prices together and then divides by that number. And what you get is a measure of where market prices have been. So in this case, they act as a good baseline when we compare that to this VantagePoint proprietary predicted moving average. So for this blue line to get plotted on the chart, calculated, and available for the trader every evening, well, this is where the technology of artificial neural networks come into play. And what they're doing is they're performing what we would call intermarket analysis. So rather than just look at past prices of Hershey, which is really what all technical analysis does, it just reformulates recent close prices, does the calculation, but it's all coming from the past, and it's only coming from one single market in question, in this case, Hershey. Well, what the technology here is able to do is look at other markets that are known to drive and influence the future price of Hershey. And it's using that artificial intelligence to understand those relationships, whether they be bullish, bearish, inverse, leading or lagging relationships. And it uses that to generate highly accurate predictive forecasts. So that can be things like the broader market, like the SPYs or the Qs, but it can also be important ETFs that wrap up groupings of stocks. Like we looked at, the home builder ETF early last month, the defense ETFs. And this helps us understand, again, some of those broader themes in the market where we can look at that via the VantagePoint predictive forecast. But it's also going to look at important markets like the dollar index or interest rates or global commodities like gold, oil, wheat, grain, depending on the market in question. And so we're using all of this really global approach and utilizing these highly accurate predictive indicators that are generated via the technology. So here when we look at Hershey's, well, we can actually see that blue line above the black line. So when we compare this to something like the Qs or the S&P 500, we can see that there's certainly some more strength here. We've got about a 10% move up over the last 26 trading days. Now, again, much bigger stock, it's not going to move as aggressively, but let's take a look at some of these shorter term predictive indicators. Firstly, we can look at this bottom bar. You see that goes from green to red back to green. And in addition to that overall trend that you're provided via that predicted moving average, the neural index at the bottom here is warning you of short-term strength or weakness in the market. So again, when you bring in your trading style and time frame, we can understand, okay, well, here we got the neural index went bearish, but you'll notice that blue line is still above the black line. You get a little bit of a gap down, but immediately the market trading up and all that momentum comes back into the market. Here again, you see the neural index goes bearish and we get a subsequent couple days of bearish price action, right? Where we actually move below that predicted moving average, but the overall trend remains higher. And so when we can take these short-term price clues and actually combine that with an intraday predicted high and low range, this is where traders can effectively adapt to the overall market. And we can actually look at those predicted ranges against the actual trading day, right? So traders can identify the overall trend, use the neural index in the short term to anticipate short-term strength or weakness, but also use these predicted ranges day to day to accumulate a position. And so you see here after many trading days, right, about 4 or 5 weeks of the market, you get numerous opportunities where the market is responding to those levels. And even here where you have earnings, you see how the market just shoots down to that previous predicted low level and then continues the uptrend. And as that volatility comes through, the indicators adapt and try to get on line with, okay, where are things headed next? You see moving up towards these predicted highs and the overall trend remaining. So this is where traders can be effective in the very short term. When the price wants to accelerate, you can take some profit, look for areas to buy back at cheaper levels, and keep executing, again, your overall trading strategy. But again, nice move here in Hershey. And again, we're seeing that specifically in some of these, again, like grocery store stocks, but the bigger themes here are actually quite bearish. One more thing we'll take a look at on the bullish side is Lockheed Martin, right? So we looked at a lot of those defense stocks, the defense ETFs. Here you see the most recent forecast still very bullish, right? That blue line above the black line. You had a couple of areas here going in earnings where that neural index gets bearish, but the overall trend here still very much to the upside. And since we've gotten that forecast come through, market's up about 18, almost 19% in just the past 18 trading days. And just like that previous example, we can look at, well, how effective are these actual predicted high and low ranges day to day moving forward? So this is really the key, is understanding how to use the software and really understanding how these things change day to day. So how you can adjust your position size as you start seeing these updated forecasts roll through and identifying those areas of market where there is strength and weakness. So again, you see some nice levels down here towards these predicted lows. As the market continues higher, more of these predicted lows getting tapped, but the overall trend moving higher here in shares of Lockheed. Now, this is, again, more of the tech space, and this is where you really need to be careful. We looked at this really as we started to, or really as that news came out. I believe it's this gap here. But again, just seeing that overall weakness in CrowdStrike, but also Microsoft, and thus via the Qs and the SPY, and really sending a wake-up call that you really need to be careful around many of these tech stocks. So here we see CrowdStrike. We get that blue line below the black line, neural index bearish. And again, this week with all the volatility, well, what have we seen? The market gap down and then start to trade higher, but you don't really have that confirmation here quite yet in shares of CrowdStrike, and also not throughout the tech space. So when we look at this overall move, we can see that now CrowdStrike is now off 38% just in the past 22 trading days. And even with all that volatility, we can see how effective these predicted highs and lows are, right? So indicating, look, as the market moves lower, even if you wanted to short this market, even after the news had come out, you're still getting an excellent entry intraday, and then over the next couple of weeks as we see shares go lower still. So really nice move there in CrowdStrike. Again, we'll quickly take a look here at Microsoft. And just again, want to hit on these bigger themes because obviously the market's seen a ton of volatility, but also just how to utilize the software day to day, right? So when it comes to Microsoft specifically, what these intermarket relationships are identifying is all that weakness through the tech space, whether it be the Qs, whether it be, NVIDIA, some of these individual stocks, and it's really just driving everything lower. And you see now Microsoft off 12% here in the past 19 trading days. And so traders can, if you want to use fundamental analysis or find some of those stocks that, you especially look to be weak because the overall market's weak, but also have potentially some weak market share and competition here. Well, here's Snap, a really great example of that. So as we go through earnings, really just driven down even more. And again, we see this week just running sideways. So even some of these weak stocks aren't going lower just because of all the volatility and how aggressively we've gone lower here very, very quickly. So overall here, we can take a look at this move lower in shares of Snap, now off 46, almost 47% here in 18 trading days. And of course, those predicted highs and lows are what really helpful for traders, right? So understanding that, well, where are those levels where you actually want to short and then look to take profit on your short positions? You see even here as we go into earnings, gap up and then immediately going lower there in shares of Snap. So lastly, just wanted to bring in some bullish opportunities. And again, we come back to here's Pilgrims Pride, Tyson's Food. Not seeing at all, right? Those blue lines cross below the black line. So we can actually use Vantage Points and Telescan to find, hey, where are the uptrends in the market? Where is that strength? And then of course we have the benefit of these predicted highs and lows. So let's take a look at Pilgrims Pride here. And I mean, this has been going on for really over a month here, or about a month here in Pilgrims Pride. And look at each predicted high and low, right? So every day you're provided with this updated forecast of what the overall trading range is likely to be, right? Here's the most recent forecast of predicted high, predicted low. The actual market data will fill in this area. We'll of course see how accurate that prediction is. But this is where traders can adapt with the marketplace. And you see about 4 or 5 entries there in a bullish market, and we see shares start to accelerate still, right? So again, there's not too many areas of strength, but certainly when we're doing that comparison, what's a better place this week? Well, as the market even goes lower and recovers, this market didn't even go lower at all, right? It's still an uptrend. And as that recovery takes place, we actually see shares accelerate to the bullish side here, about a 16% increase in the past 19 trading days. Lastly, Tyson, probably going to share some correlations with things like Pilgrims Pride, right? These are both chicken processing companies. And so very similar sort of chart here, but that's what helps us, again, understand what's going on with the Qs, what's going on with the defense space, what's going on with these tech stocks going lower, and help get the portfolio positioned accordingly to make money or just avoid a lot of this weakness that we've seen in areas that had performed extremely well up till now. But here's Tyson Foods. Again, we'll get overall sense of the moves about 8-9%. You'll see here, this is a good example of the neural index, right? So you get that neural index bearish, get that subsequent weakness, a little bit of sideways price action, more weakness and sideways, but very clearly the overall trend is up here. And those predicted ranges, again, can be used to adjust and adapt in the position, right? Take some profits as the market moves forward. And you see again how these levels, whether it's the predicted high or the predicted low, do a pretty good job here of letting you know where to accumulate a position, but also where to take some off and look for potentially some cheaper prices. So again, really interesting week, right? Huge gap down recovery, but still seeing some weakness spread out throughout the marketplace, and especially why you want to be real careful in picking any bullish opportunities, but also just maybe holding on to some of those bearish opportunities and longer term trends where we've seen the most weakness. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. Once again, this has been our Hot Stocks Outlook for August 9th, 2024. Thank you all for watching. Best of luck and bye for now.